The Little Duke by Charlotte M. Yonge. Chapter 12. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The present recording is by Raju, Ramina45@hotmail.com. The Little Duke by Charlotte M. Yonge. Chapter 12. Sir Eric, said Richard, you told me there was a parliament to be held in Falaise between Count Bernard and the King of Denmark. I mean to attend it. Will you come with me, or shall Osmond go, and you remain in charge of the Prince? How now, Lord Richard? You are not wont to love a parliament? I have something to say, replied Richard. The Baron made no objection, only telling his mother that the Duke was a marvellous wise child, and that he would soon be fit to take the government himself. Lothair lamented the more when he found that Richard was going away. His presence seemed to him a protection, and he fancied, now Carloman was dead, that his former injuries were about to be revenged. The Duke assured him repeatedly that he meant him nothing but kindness, adding, when I return you will see Lothair. Then commending him to the care of kindness of Fru Estrida, Osmond, and Alberic, Richard set forth upon his pony, attended by Sir Eric and the 3 men-at-arms. Richard felt sad when he looked back at Bayeux, and thought that it no longer contained his dear little friend. But it was a fresh, bright, frosty morning. The fields were covered with a silvery white coating. The flakes of hoar frost sparkled on every bush, and the hard ground rung cheerily to the tread of the horses' feet. As the yellow sun fought his way through the grey mists that dimmed his brightness, and shone out merrily the blue heights of the sky, Richard's spirits rose, and he laughed and shouted, as hare or rabbit rushed across the heath, or as the plover rose screaming above his head, flopping her broad wings across the wintry sky. One night they slept at a convent, where they heard that Hugh of Paris had passed on to join the conference at Falaise. The next day they rode on, and towards the afternoon the Baron pointed to a sharp, rocky range of hills, crowned by a tall, solid tower, and told Richard yonder was his keep of Falaise, the strongest castle in Normandy. The country was far more broken as they advanced, narrow valleys and sharp hills, each little vale full of wood, and interspersed with rocks. A choice place for game, Sir Eric said, and Richard, as he saw a herd of deer dash down a forest glade, exclaimed that they must come here to stay for some autumn sport. There seemed to be huntsmen abroad in the woods, for through the frosty air came the baying of dogs, the shouts and calls of men, and now and then the echoing, ringing notes of a bugle. Richard's eyes and cheeks glowed with excitement, and he pushed his brisk little pony on faster and faster, unheeding that the heavier men and horses of his suite were not keeping pace with him on the rough ground and through the tangled boughs. Presently a strange sound of growling and snarling was heard close at hand. His pony swerved aside, and could not be made to advance. So Richard, dismounting, dashed through some briars, and there, on an open space, beneath a precipice of dark ivy-covered rock that rose like a wall, he beheld a huge grey wolf and a large dog in mortal combat. It was as if they had fallen or rolled down the precipice together, not heeding it in their fury. Both were bleeding, and the eyes of both glared like red fairy glass in the dark shadow of the rock. The dog lay undermost, almost overpowered, making but a feeble resistance, and the wolf would in another moment be at liberty to spring on the lonely child. But not a thought of fear passed through his breast. To save the dog was Richard's only idea. In one moment he had drawn the dagger he wore at his girdle, ran to the 2 struggling animals, and with all his force plunged it into the throat of the wolf, which happily was still held by the teeth of the hound. The struggles relaxed. The wolf rolled heavily aside, dead. The dog lay panting and bleeding, and Richard feared he was cruelly torn. Poor fellow, noble dog, what shall I do to help you? And he gently smoothed the dark brindled head. A voice was now heard shouting aloud, at which the dog raised and crested his head, as a figure in a hunting dress was coming down a rocky pathway, an extremely tall, well-made man, of noble features. "Ah, hola, vige, vige! How now, my brave hound?" he said in the northern tongue, though not quite with the accent Richard was accustomed to hear. "What hurt?" "Much torn, I fear. Richard called out, as the faithful creature wagged his tail, and strove to rise and meet his master. "Ah, lad, what art you?" exclaimed the hunter, amazed at seeing the boy between the dead wolf and the wounded dog. "You look like one of those Frenchified Norman gentlers, with your smooth locks and gilded baldric, yet your words are Norse. By the hammer of Thor, that's a dagger in the wolf's throat." "It's mine," said Richard. "I found your dog nearly spent, and I made in to the rescue." "You did? Well done. I would not have lost Vigier for all the plunder of Italy. I am beholden to you, my brave young lad," said the stranger, all the time examining and caressing the wound. "What's your name? You cannot be southern bred." As he spoke, more shouts came near, and the Baron de Centeville rushed through the trees, holding Richard's pony by the bridle. My lord! My lord! Oh, thank heaven, I see you safe." At the same moment, a party of hunters also approached by the path, and at the head of them, Bernard the Dane. "Ha!" exclaimed he, "what do I see? My young lord, what brought you here?" And with a hasty obeisance, Bernard took Richard's outstretched hand. "I came hither to attend your counsel," replied Richard. "I have a boon to ask of the King of Denmark." "Any boon the King of Denmark has in his power will be yours," said the dog's master, slapping his hand on the little Duke's shoulder with a rude, hearty familiarity that took him by surprise, and he looked up with a shade of offence, till on a sudden flash of perception he took off his cap, exclaiming, "King Harald himself! Pardon me, Sir King." "Pardon Jarl Richard. What would you have been pardoned? You are saving the life of Vigier here? No French politeness for me. Tell me your boon, and it's yours. Shall I take you a voyage and harry the fat monks of Ireland?" Richard recoiled a little from his new friend. "Oh, ha! I forgot. They have made a Christian of you. More's the pity. You have the northern spirit so strong. I had forgotten it. Come, walk by my side, and let me hear what you would ask. Hola, you Swain, carry Vigier up to the castle, and look to his wounds. Now for it, young Jarl." "My boon is that you would set free Prince Lothair." "What, the young Frank? Why, they kept you captive, burnt your face, and would have made an end of you, but for your clever bonder. That's long past, and Lothair is so wretched. His brother is dead, and he is sick with grief, and he says he shall die if he does not go home. A good thing, too, for the treacherous race to die out in him. What should you care for him? He is your foe." "I am a Christian," was Richard's answer. "Well, I promised you whatever you might ask. All my share of his ransom, or his person, bond or free, is yours. You have only to prevail with your own jarls and bonders." Richard feared this would be more difficult, but Abbot Martin came to the meeting and took his part. Moreover, the idea of their hostage dying in their hands so as to leave them without hold upon the King had much weight with them, and after long deliberation they consented that Lothair should be restored to his father without ransom, but only on condition that Louis should guarantee to the Duke the peaceable possession of the country. As far as St. Clair, Sir Ept, which had been long in dispute, so that Alberic became indisputably a vassal of Normandy. Perhaps it was the happiest day in Richard's life when he rode back Bayeux to desire Lothair to prepare to come with him to St. Clair, there to be given back into the hands of his father. And then they met King Louis, grave and sorrowful for the loss of his little Carloman, and for the time repenting of his misdeeds towards the orphan heir of Normandy. He pressed the Duke in his arms, and his kiss was a genuine one, as he said, "Duke Richard, we have not deserved this of you. I did not treat you as you have treated my children. We will be true lord and vassal from henceforth." Lothair's last words were, "Farewell, Richard. If I lived with you, I might be good like you. I will never forget what you have done for me." When Richard once more entered Rouen in state, his subjects shouting round him in transports of joy, better than all his honor and glory was the being able to enter the church of Our Lady, and kneel by his father's grave with a clear conscience, and the sense that he had tried to keep that last injunction. End of chapter 12.